Hello and welcome back to Toolbox Talks on the Site Shed. You're joining us today for episode 105, and I'm joined at the microphone with Will from Growth Labz once again. And in today's episode, we're talking about giving your business a Merry Christmas. And basically, this episode is about little innovative ways that you can get the phone ringing before Christmas and start adding some serious value to your customers, building trust, building rapport, and just making sure that both your business and your customers have the best possible advantage and everyone's well looked after coming into that festive season and that Christmas holiday break. Enjoy.
Giving tradies and contractors around the globe the tools to run a modern business. You're listening to Toolbox Talks from the Site Shed. Now here's your host, Matt Jones.
Hello listeners, and welcome back to episode 105 of Toolbox Talks on the Site Shed. And I'm joined today at the microphone with Will from Growth Labz. Will, welcome back.
Thanks, mate. Great to be back.
How you doing?
Good. We had so much fun last time. We thought we might do it again.
Yes, that's right. No, it was excellent. We got a lot of good feedback from that series we conducted on how to grow your business with online marketing. So for those of you guys that missed that, head back and check out episode 101, 102, and 103, where we were talking about the need behind online marketing. We're talking about the 3 key pillars to online marketing success, and we're also talking about tried and tested online marketing strategies for tradies and contractors that Will's actually applied in the marketplace. So yeah, for sure, go back and check that out, because that's not guessing. That stuff actually works. And to add to that, there's also some really helpful downloads available through the show notes. So head across to the siteshed.com. Head across to the podcast there, and you'll see those episodes where you'll be able to get hold of that content for the grand price of nothing. Will, okay, in this episode, we are going to be talking about giving your business a Merry Christmas. Now, obviously, it's end of November here, coming into December, which means Christmas is tapping on the back door. And I suppose a lot of businesses, come Christmas time, they either get extremely busy and then they die off, or they get extremely dead and don't pick up until February. So I suppose what we're trying to alleviate here is that whole scenario by building a bit of a structure around how we can improve some leads and get the phone ringing a bit and maybe build on our database. So what have we got installed today, Will?
Yeah, cool. So just for today, we're going to have a theoretical talk. So from the view of a tradie business owner, looking at a couple of different types of businesses. So maintenance businesses, or if you're in the construction space, how you'd go about really maximizing the amount of leads you get in the next month. Because obviously, as you said, the leads can tend to dry up if you don't do anything proactive. People have got less money to spend. They're thinking about presents. They're thinking about going away. So really, how do you make sure that your business not only does well, but you're positioning yourself to really kill it and just really go after it next year? Okay,
cool. So look, the main example we're going to run through today is going to be relevant mainly towards the emergency/maintenance style of company. However, I would encourage everyone to listen on, because the principles that we're going to be talking about here are certainly relevant across the board, regardless of your specific niche. So, Will, what company did we want to talk about today? What type of business?
Sure. So let's use a couple of examples. So the main example that we can talk about is a maintenance plumbing business. Mm-hmm. So we can use that as an angle, but that could be, we can quite easily talk about a Sparky business, or it's any kind of business where you go into a customer's house, yep, and they've got an issue and you want to fix it. But I will touch base just really briefly as well. About some of the companies that sell bigger services, like potentially if you build kitchens for people. There's a couple of thoughts I had around that, but why don't we get started with the maintenance side first, and then we can go into that.
Yep, absolutely. Let's do it. So, what are we really talking about here? So it's leading up to Christmas. Like with a lot of maintenance companies, I suppose they do typically get there's that whole scenario around people wanting to get things done before the Christmas holidays, and they want to get things out of the way. Although there's also that other side of the equation where you get a lot of people that, I suppose, they mean to get things checked but often forget, or they just get caught up in the whole hustle and bustle of Christmas and New Year's, and they don't get around to it. Then come Christmas morning, their sewers start blocking up, and and all hell breaks loose. So what are we thinking here in terms of, I suppose, campaigns?
Yeah, sure. So look, so instead of going into, at this time of year, if you're trying to start a new campaign, it's, sometimes it's a little bit easier just to change the entire messaging across your brand. So starting at the website level, talking about the fact it's coming to Christmas, but even before looking at campaigns, I mean, it's good to understand the mentality of your customers, right? Mm-hmm. Because ultimately they're the people who are looking to buy. Ultimately, they're who we want to get in front of. So it's interesting that we talked about this time of year and what you previously said with the two different sides. So one side of it, and this is just me thinking off the top of my head, right? The languaging is that, or the fear that people have is around, late December, early Jan is when people start going away on leave, when they start going on holidays, traveling around. And one of the biggest things is my home okay when I'm traveling? So if someone's got a niggling plumbing issue, say, or if there's been a leak and things like that, one thing that you can do in all of your campaigns and all of your online website changes going forward for the next month is talking about having peace of mind while you go on holidays. And I think instead of talking about getting your plumbing fixed, talking about things like all top level benefits like having the peace of mind to really enjoy your holiday. That's how you're really going to get through to people. And especially the people who think, well, I'm not sure if I have a budget because I'm going away or I'm buying presents for the kids. If you're talking about the real core benefit or, something that they actually want or care about, people will tend to find the budget for it.
It's really funny that we're talking about this because the reason I was late into this call with you is because I just got off the phone with a client of mine who runs a huge probably the biggest plumbing electrical business in Australia. And he was having some issues around copywriting, and they were doing the same thing. And it's very common, I think, for business owners to try and sell the process to their customers, when the reality is, like you just said, you got to get in the habit of trying to sell the benefits or sell the result. You're not selling them. You're not selling them the block drain clearing. You're selling the fact their sewer won't overflow into their living room, or you're selling them the fact that they're hot. They'll have hot water throughout the Christmas break. Like, that's the kind of thing you're selling. Not so much we can replace your hot water heater, or as he said to me, what if we use something like does your hot water heater need a checkup? How the hell would they know? And no one knows that.
Yeah.
What they know is I've got hot water leaking everywhere, or the hot water that's coming out of their tap is rusty, or whatever it is. That's the problem. So you've kind of got to address the problem with your content across the board, not even seasonally, like always. And it doesn't matter what the medium is either. It could be video, could be written, could be a podcast, whatever it is. So it's interesting that you say that. And I suppose practically, how would you apply that sort of mentality into a seasonal scenario? I mean, obviously you just use the holiday advantage there, but then how would you maybe incorporate, I suppose, like a service into a seasonal promotion or something along those lines, Will?
Yeah, sure. So look, that's actually a really good point, and it's such a great principle because when you talk about seasonal, obviously it's not just the fact that Christmas is coming up, but if we think about the principle of it, we can actually change the campaign. If we're going to winter, you can change the campaign as long as your copy or your messaging is correct. So let's just take, for example, a hot water system, right? So coming into Christmas, what I'd say in the copy or in how I structure my campaigns or messaging is if you're either going away or if you've got family or a lot of family coming to stay with you, well, you want to make sure, or you want the peace of mind knowing that you've got enough hot water to go around, right? Because there's nothing more frustrating than having a wicked hangover the day after Christmas, and you're getting up and you just want a hot water shower, just want a hot shower, and you find that all of your in-laws and your relatives have smashed the hot water, and now you live left feeling hungover. Now that's obviously a kind of exaggerated example, right? But it's that type of messaging and talking to experiences that people go through that you can use for your seasonal campaigns. Mm-hmm. So flipping that around, so using the same hot water system or hot water industry, if it's winter, say we've gone past Christmas, we're heading into middle of the year where it's a bit colder, you can talk about, well, you just got home from work, you've had a long day, and all you can think about is getting into that hot shower to feel better about being home. When all of a sudden the hot water system's broken down and you're out of hot water for 2 or 3 days, how would that make you feel?
Yeah.
So that becomes way more powerful, and people connect with it on a very emotional level, and that becomes more powerful than saying, hey, do you want your hot water system checked? Because honestly, how would they know, right?
Yeah.
Your exact point is how would they know?
Yeah, exactly. Okay. So then what about when we talk about, I suppose, like, why don't we talk about timing behind like launching these kind of campaigns? Like when obviously we're a month out away from Christmas as we speak. We're just over a month from New Year's. What's an ideal time to start getting these campaigns running?
Well, the ideal time, generally, it's actually mid-November. So, when the shops kind of start putting up their Christmas decorations, when they start pushing Christmas specials, that's when people start getting into that whole mind frame of thinking about Christmas.
Yeah.
And that's when their buying patterns change. So if you haven't done it yet, it's definitely time to start thinking about that.
Mm-hmm.
But look, it's not too late, because if you can move quickly, you can get a campaign out there within days, right? And as long as the messaging is right, then you can get in front of your competition.
So let's talk a little bit about how we might structure these campaigns, or maybe maybe from what we talk about here, I'll just draw out a bit of a framework so the listeners can get an idea of how they might go about creating these sort of campaigns correctly. So I suppose first and foremost, and I'd say it's probably constant across the board, regardless of what sort of campaign you're doing, whether it's you're going to do a letterbox drop, whether you're going to run ads in a newspaper, whether you're going to get your team of employees running down the street in your underpants with billboards or whatever it is. At the end of the day, people are probably, realistically, in 2016, they're going to be coming back and looking for you on a website somewhere online, correct?
Yeah. So it's the goal, if you are going to be doing offline, which, it definitely works. So when you're looking at offline, the goal is to get the phone call. But obviously, a lot of people nowadays, instead of calling you directly, they will jump back onto your website first and have a look at your social media.
Okay, so first and foremost, you want to make sure that your website's up to scratch. You want to make sure that it's, at the end of the day, I suppose it's where that customer is going to be getting their first impression of you. So you want to make sure that, they're doing that, they are getting a good first impression of you. So it always starts with a website. In the space of running a campaign specific to an event or a promotion or a season or whatever it is, it's probably, in my experience, better to build a landing page off the back of the website that talks specifically about that promotion that you're running. So you may or may not agree with that, Will, but in the instance of what we're talking about here, maybe running a Christmas campaign targeting block drains or whatever it is, then it would be smart to have a page built off the back of your website that talks specifically about that campaign that you're running, and that way any ads or anything that people see relating to that campaign will always drive them back to that page where they can get content that has been created for that campaign specifically, so there's no mixed messaging.
Yeah, look, I 100% agree. There's just one other point I wanted to touch on, and you're probably more of an expert in this space than I am, especially going to Christmas. With people going on holidays and having their houses sit there with no one in there. One thing that I found to be really important, more so around Christmas time than throughout the year, is the trust that your website conveys. Right? Because the last thing we want to do is to have a tradie come into our home to fix an issue, and then you're going away for a week or two on holidays. You come back and someone's come and empty the house. That is just worst case scenario.
Yeah.
So it's super important that not only just a landing page, because I agree, all of our campaigns, we do drive to a customized landing page. But even if someone's researching a business, your general website, your website in general and your social media, you should think about, what message am I getting across, or how professional does my business look, and will this affect the trust that my leads and my potential clients will have in that we can service them, and also that we're not dodgy, right?
Yeah. Okay. Well, I mean, yeah, that kind of I suppose ties back to what we were saying before. Like at the end of the day, your website is about it's about giving a place where your customer can gain a first impression of you. So, as you just said, if you want to make sure that once somebody gets to that, gets to your website, that you are professionally represented. There's nothing worse than going to a website that's, that's all beaten up, or it doesn't function properly, or, there's all these stock images all over the place that look terrible, or the content's been written by somebody who doesn't speak English, and all these things are a direct reflection of that first impression. So you've got to be really careful that you're getting that right. So it's paramount when you're setting up a website, or even when you're, adding things to a website, maybe you're adding your, adding a blog onto the website, or you could be adding a landing page talking about promotion. All this kind of stuff has to stay consistent with that branding, and that branding should be focused around you being the professional that people are actually looking for. So just keep that in mind. It's really important. I mean, obviously we do websites day in, day out at Tradie Web Guys, so we see a lot of horror stories. But if I can convey one message to people, it's just get some clarity around like the brand and the representation that you, like the way you want to be seen in the marketplace, because the way that you want to be seen and the way that you are seen is very often two very different things, sadly. Okay, so we've got the website, we've got the landing page. So now we've got to talk about, I suppose, getting it out there to people so they can see what we're talking about and see what we're promoting, right? So let's talk a little bit about that, Will.
Cool. So one thing that I'm doing with clients at the moment is, if people are doing ads at the moment, either through Google or Facebook, so depending on how the ads are working, sometimes we do change it to give it more of a Christmassy message. So for example, with the Facebook ads that we run, and instead of being very generic and hey, I've got an offer for you to come in and check out your plumbing or check out your electrical issues, what we can do is make it a little bit more playful. Right? Mm-hmm. Because people start being a little bit more festive. People start being a little bit less serious around this time of year. Mm-hmm. So the ads that we like to use kind of reflect that. So it's a little bit more laid back. It's a little bit subjective, but the ads are just a little bit more smiley,
a bit jovial, a bit jolly.
Yeah, that makes sense. Exactly right. Yeah. So and they almost start to get a little bit silly. So sometimes we run ads where we Photoshop like a Christmas, like a Santa hat onto the business owner and do things like that. So feel free to experiment. At this time of year, I think that the funnier or the more jolly you get, the more people are likely to respond.
I tend to agree with that. Actually, I think this time of year, people they want to be smiling and they want to see things that make them giggle. And although with the message behind it being deadly serious, there's no reason why you can't convey that message in a way that's relatable and enjoyable for people to digest. So yeah, that's a good example.
Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit, Will, about, and this is something that we come across very often, and a lot of our listeners out there will probably be in this situation and perhaps not realize it. So the difference between when we talk, I suppose, traditional marketing and then re-engaging with existing customers that may already need our services. So very often we find that with a lot of tradies that we work with and contractors that we work with, they've got huge databases of people that they have done work for in the past. Yet for some reason, or one reason or another, and I'm not quite sure why this is so common, but they'll come to us, looking for more traffic, when the reality is often re-engaging with some of their existing customers or customers that have purchased from them previously, could probably do the trick, and it could. And as we all know, the conversions on like the figures on retaining a customer versus gaining a new customer is something in vicinity of 80%, a greater chance. So what are your thoughts around re-engaging with people coming into these Christmas seasons and into these festive seasons and that kind of stuff, Will?
Yeah, so look, I'm actually going to share one of the best working campaigns that we've ever run into tradie databases, and it only works this time of year, right? And this is super complicated, but if they get it right, they're going to get so much traffic coming back. And here's the exact email that we send to people, right? So guys, if you have a pen and paper, now's the time to get it out and take out the notes. So the subject line of the email is Merry Christmas, right? Mm-hmm. And that's it. It's so simple just to get back in touch with these people who already know you. And it's, and essentially you're not even trying to sell the services. All you're saying is, Merry Christmas. Thanks for being a customer this year. We really value your service. By the way, if you're going away, or if you're thinking about what you can do, or if you're going to try and attempt some DIY over, if you're going to try to attempt DIY over Christmas, here's a couple of pointers.
Okay.
Right. So just super simple. Just get the engagement going back up, and you might even get a few of those coming back to you and say, "Hey, thanks for the message. You have a Merry Christmas too. By the way, I've been thinking about getting this done for the past couple of months. Do you guys have a chance to come out and quote me before Christmas?"
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Cool. Now, this kind of as well, I suppose, ties back into we're not going to talk about it today in this episode, but it does tie into very much. We've spoken about it a lot in the past on the SiteShed podcast, and it's about obtaining data from people. So through whatever source it is, we always encourage some sort of CRM, customer relationship management program, or some sort of job management program, or something like that, where you can get details on people. You can keep records on the type of work that you've done for people, and then if, for example, it's a hot water heater that you've installed, then if you can put a notification in one of your calendars or in one of your programs where in 5 years' time you check back in with that person or maybe even a couple of years' time to check back in and just maybe say, hey, listen, it's probably a good idea that we service the the relief valves on the hot water and all these kind of things. That's smart marketing, because you know that you've already gone to the trouble of installing the product. I would hope that the customer's happy with you and they know and trust you already. And then now you're being proactive in the space of helping them get the best out of the product that you've installed for them, therefore saving them money, time, and grief in the long run. So these are smart ways that you can do it. And you would see it a lot as well with people that do block drains, for example. Like if you go out and clear a block drain at a customer's property, as the plumber, that within maybe 3 to 4 months, there's going to be tree roots growing back into that drain. So you can either wait for them to call you with surcharging sewer in their home or coming out of their boundary trap or whatever it is, or you can be proactive and put a notification in your calendar and call them and say, hey, listen, it's been 3 months since we last cleared your block drain. How about we come out, put the camera down, check on it again, clear anything that's in there just so that it doesn't back up and overflow into your house again. Now, if that was me and I got that phone call, there is no way I would not take you up on that. Like, the last thing I want is shit flowing into my home the way it was before.
Yeah, that is exactly right. And I think some tradies I've worked with, they've got this preconception that, hey, if I do that, then I might be annoying people. But trust me, as someone who's been on the buying side and someone who's worked with a lot of tradies doing this, people actually love that, right? They absolutely love it, because it means that you've actually shown an interest in them and you've actually reached out proactively, caring about their home. So you're absolutely not annoying them, as long as you're not saying, hey, by the way, I want another $10,000 from you just because it's been 3 months. That's not the way to do it. But if you do go with the approach of, hey, I'm just checking to see that the works that the works hold up. I'm just making sure that you're not going to get shit falling back into your house, that everything is in order, everything's okay. Do you want me to come out just for 5 minutes and put the camera down again, just to give you peace of mind? They will absolutely go and tell all their friends about you. They'll go into social media and go, man, this is the best tradie I've ever worked with. It's been 3 months and they didn't charge me a cent. They made sure everything was okay. Super stoked. Just by doing that, the amount of referrals that you get from them telling people about it would be great.
So there's a fine line between, I suppose, being proactive and being a pest, and that's, I suppose, something you've got to be conscious of. I mean, what we just spoke about then is being proactive, but then I would say, the difference between being proactive and being a pest would be, constantly barraging people. Hey, we've got another special coming up. How about we come out and do this? Or, there's a very fine line there, and you've got to be careful not to cross it. And, the best way to do it is just put yourself in their shoes. Like, what sort of service would you like to experience? Is it a constant barrage of people coming to you trying to sell you stuff, or is it actually stuff that you value and things that you can use? And are you being annoying, or are you adding value? That's basically the bottom line. So just be proactive when you're thinking about these kind of things. And like you just said, Will, people do want to hear from you, but they want to hear from you for the right reasons. So just make sure when you're out there, when you are reaching out to people, when you are communicating, that you're doing it in a way that's as an advantage to them. I probably would disagree with the whole going out there and doing it for free. I think at the end of the day, if you're offering a service, you should be charging for it. But I suppose it's relative to each business as well. I mean, I know a lot of our customers out there, they might offer like heavily discounted, camera. CCT camera surveys, just maybe off the back of a block drain 3 months down the track or something, just so they, that it's that the customer's not actually out there breaking breaking their wallet for it. But I mean, you've got to cover your time and expenses, I suppose, as the tradie yourself. So I wouldn't recommend doing anything for nothing. But yeah.
that free word was a really bad example. Just ignore it. Just to touch base on that. One interesting way that some companies have gotten around this is to price the service on the like first engagement. So what I mean by that is, instead of saying, look, we'll come out to you for free, charge a little bit more on the first service or the first time you get out there, right? And say, hey, by the way, the reason why we're charging a little bit more is that in 3 months' time, sometimes we find that if the tree roots are growing aggressively or if the conditions are correct, then they'll just come back, and it's just a regular thing we have to do. So instead of you worrying about it, what I like to do is our price a little bit high because we do guarantee the work, and as part of that, we'll come out in 3 months' time, in 6 months' time, and check that it hasn't come back again.
That's pretty clever, actually. Okay, so just recap on that for the listeners, because that's actually that's a pretty clever framework, I think, for a maintenance style company, or a company that, or a job or a project or a task, I should say, that has a recurring, an inevitable recurring element to it. Do you want to just recap on that just one more time?
Yeah, sure. So I'll go. I'll actually take two examples of two different type of tradies who could use this. So first one's a plumber, right? So as we talked about, but potentially if the tree branches, if the tree roots are growing aggressively, they might have cleared the plumbing out, but then things are growing back. So instead of saying, I'm going to charge you every time I come back to you, what you can say is change the languaging and say, look, we guarantee complete peace of mind on our work. We have a lifetime guarantee. And what that means is we're going to come back out to you in 3 months, in 6 months' time to recheck that the tree roots aren't coming back into your plumbing. So what you do is you charge a little bit more on the front end to cover your costs, but that allows you to keep going back and seeing them. And that's good because then people start getting comfortable with who you are. And, and for any other small plumbing issues, you're going back there every 3 months, potentially picking up new jobs every single time.
So, Will, in that scenario, would you recommend disclosing that fee and that you've built into the price, or do you? I mean, you obviously need to build it in. Would you disclose it, or would you just that the price is the price, but we also offer this, and we're just going to do this for the love of it, kind of thing?
It really does depend, because I've helped some businesses who sell it as a bit of a package. So they go, well, here's, if you just want us to do a one-off job, that's fine. Unfortunately, we can't guarantee the results because, unfortunately, we just can't stop tree roots from growing, right? It's not what we do. But what we do sell on top of this is a maintenance plan.
Yeah.
So it's just one payment, you get complete peace of mind in the same spiel, and you kind of go into it.
Yeah.
The other side is you don't even mention that, but you just charge a little bit higher and just guarantee the work, and then you give them a surprise call 3 or 6 months down the track. So it really does depend on what you're more comfortable with.
Yeah.
And also the type of clients that you're actually serving.
Yeah, that's right. And as an example for that, I mean, a lot of occasions, actually, even when I was plumbing, we had a lot of clients, strata buildings and real estates and stuff like that. So basically, company organizations that had a board. So, it could be a band of 10 or 20 properties that they have like a body that governs them I don't know if they call it the same in the US, if it's called strata, but basically what would happen is, like, if we go out there to do block drains, and we would know that in 3 to 6 months it's going to be blocked up again. So we would have a contract in place where every 3 to 6 months we would come back and we would just get out there and clear all the drains, and we wouldn't have to, there'd be no selling. It would just be every 3 months we'd just come out, we'd just do it, we'd leave, we'd invoice, and it'd be good to go. So if you are in that space, or you're doing a service similar to that, then it's a really good way to firstly offer your customer a great service and drastically reduce the chance of anything dramatic happening at that location. And then I suppose from your point of view as well, it's a good steady income for you. So if you can build up a bunch of those, it's almost like a recurring revenue stream effectively. So it's pretty good practice and in everybody's interest if you do it right.
Yeah, cool. So the second example of that is a HVAC, and in Australia we call them air conditioning businesses, but in the US it's it's HVAC. It's heating and ventilation and air conditioning. So one company that we work with, what they did was they sold coupons. So they sold 10 visit coupons because they know that every single year, as winter turns into to fall, or things like that, as the seasons change. I'm not even going to try and.
I'd be surprised if winter turned into fall, but yeah.
Yeah, mate. Look, we're completely different down in Australia. Winter goes into fall, and fall goes into. No, so obviously I don't have my seasons down pat, but the whole premise is as the seasons change, your air conditioning needs will change as well, and the air conditioners need to be serviced so you don't get that funky smell, so not pumping bad air into your home, and instead of having to worry about that and find someone new every time. This business sold a 10-pack, so a 10 service maintenance pack for a much lower fee than an individual call out. But they knew that if these clients bought it, not only would they be seeing them 10 times, but they get the opportunity to have a look at other things every time they stepped into the house. So that was a really cool way of doing that too.
Yeah, a lot of companies do that. Again, I think there's a fine line between being helpful and being a pest. So just be careful when you're doing that. Like the whole cross-selling scenario is good if you do it correctly. But I mean, I've seen a lot of companies do it poorly, and I've actually sat through a lot of training programs with a lot of inverted comma training experts, and like it's almost offensive the way they try and promote selling some of these or cross-selling into some to homeowners. So just be careful. There's a fine line there. I mean, an example was once, I went to one of these seminars, and like the guy was talking about an example where, if you got called out to fix a hot water heater in the home, you would go out there and then, try and sell them a new bathroom vanity or a new toilet suite or something, because the one they had was a couple of years old and it was starting to look dated, just things like that. I mean, I'd be very surprised, perhaps more so in Australia, if you would get anybody respond positively to that.
Yeah, look. So the key is don't be that guy. Don't be that company.
Yeah.
Right. Because if you're going to offer an upsell cross, look, it really, really does have to have some value behind it. And you can't just find a service totally unrelated that the customer has no need for and try and shove it down their throats. Because very quickly, if someone does pay you for the first time, you're not going to get back in there again. Or if they haven't paid you very quickly, you're absolutely going to be shown the door. So, based around value, based around caring for your customers, not just trying to extract every single nickel and dime from them, because that is not a smart long-term play.
Yeah,
really isn't.
Okay, cool. Well, look, we've got a couple of examples out of the way. We're getting, I suppose, conscious of time. We're going to get to wrapping this up. So, what are we going to do here in terms of framing this up so that people can, I suppose, go away and actually apply this into their business and get results?
Right. So this is obviously a little bit difficult because across the listener base, I'm sure that you guys have different campaigns that you run, whether it's offline, online, Google or Facebook. I think the best thing that we can do is, why don't we, and if they're interested, we can come up with five kind of not words, so 5 kind of sentences that they can have a look at to inspire them for their copy. So exactly what we've talked about. If think about peace of mind, think about the Christmas period. What kind of languaging we typically use for our clients that gets some great results when they're marketing closer to Christmas.
Mm-hmm. Okay, sounds good. And what are we going to do with them? Are we going to stick them in the show notes or something?
Yeah, let's stick them in the show notes.
Yep, cool.
And then what we've also got is you and I both have some awesome resources that we can share.
Yeah.
So So for you've got the awesome document, the 5 common website mistakes that tradies make, which I just had a sneak peek at, which was awesome. And I've got a 5 copy and paste some marketing campaigns that tradies can run. So that's on your website, I believe.
Yep. That'll be in the show notes. Not a problem. And I suppose I'd just like to leave it with the listeners out there as a framework. I mean, we touched on it before, but it's really important that you guys get good at collecting data. So get yourself a CRM or get yourself some sort of job management program, just something that you can start saving your customer details in. If you don't know what I'm talking about, send me an email, send it across to, well, you can either post it in the show notes, you can post it in one of the social media streams, wherever you see this podcast, or you can just simply email it through to matt@thesiteshed.com. and just let us know what you're doing there. When maybe we can connect you with the right people who can help you get set up with the right programs there. But it's really important looking forward that you guys start getting in the habit of collecting data. Secondly, make sure your website's up to speed. If it's not up to speed, again, send an email, Matt at the Site Shed. We'll have a look at it. We'll put it through a bit of a scope, and we'll see how you can possibly improve that. And then, especially in the space of building landing pages for campaigns or whatever you wanted to do. And then, of course, for marketing-related stuff, by all means, email in or, again, post some comments in the show notes there, and we'll get Will on the case, and he'll be able to steer you in the right direction with that. So that pretty much wraps up that episode, I think, there, Will. Is there anything else you wanted to add?
It'd actually be interesting to do an episode in the future where we answer questions that people have around websites or marketing. So maybe if people email in any questions they've got, anything they want us to clear up, that'd be really cool as well to kind of smash through those.
Yeah, awesome. Well, what I'll do is as well, I'll put a note out in the site meeting, which comes out to a lot of our listeners out there receive our weekly site meeting. Well, mostly weekly, often bi-weekly. And basically, I'll throw that out there. So if you guys have got any questions or anything specific you want answered, let us know, and Will and I will jump on that, and we'll create a bit of a podcast on it for you, and hopefully steer you in the right direction. But other than that, I think that's pretty much a wrap. Will, thanks again for joining us on the Site Shed podcast. We look forward to further collaboration down the track. And yeah, that's pretty much all.
It's always good fun. Thanks, guys. Thanks for listening.
Thanks, mate. Bye. Thank you for listening to another episode of Toolbox Talks. If you're liking what you hear, then you can head across to thesiteshed.com, where you can join our community by signing up to our Toolbox Talks. You'll get sent a weekly notification, which is basically a highlight of everything that we've spoken about during that week, along with any other industry news that may be relevant or specific to the trades. If you're enjoying the show, you can head across to iTunes, Stitcher, or SoundCloud, where you can leave us a review. That would be fantastic, and all the reviews get read out in the show. Likewise, if you have any friends or colleagues that you think would benefit from the show and the episodes that we create, then please go ahead and share it with them.